The first floor of Vin's residence. A passionate, melodious voice echoes throughout the virtual opera theater. As the red curtains fall, the story of the female and male leads played by Yu and Bin in Forbidden Witches of the Heart digital opera comes to an imperfect end. In the end, the story's male and female leads didn't end up together. Instead, they were left with no choice but to part ways. This was precisely due to the fact that they loved each other too much. They were unbearably eager to understand everything about one another, including the forbidden riches of their hearts that no one else had ever seen before. As you are stuck pondering your mixed feelings about the main character's relationship, you feel your VR headset start to loosen. You look up to see Vin smiling as he observes your expression. He then helps you remove the headset.
정신이 들어요?
I... Vin reaches out and smoothes the strands of hair around your ears.
아직도 오페라의 결말을 생각 중인가 보네요. 받아들이기가 힘든가요?
How should I put it? You two planned on tidying up all the random stuff you hadn't put away yet, but the VR set caught your attention as you went through the display cabinet. You bought this VR set back when you and Vin went shopping before moving into your new home. The store employee mentioned that this device included a digital opera experience that has recently taken the world by storm. Not only can you play as an audience member, but you can also immerse yourself in the role of the main character. Today is the first time you and Bin have given it a try. You chose the most popular opera, Forbidden Witches of the Heart, but you weren't expecting it to have such an unfortunate ending. I just feel like they truly love each other, but they still drifted apart after touching the forbidden witches of each other's hearts. It truly is a shame.
서로가 생각만큼 잘 맞지 않는다고 해석될 수도 있죠.
Upon hearing Vin's calm and objective evaluation, you are suddenly reminded of the nobleman he played in the story. Even though you're aware Vin was only role-playing when you insisted on discovering his secrets in the game, the anguish and decisiveness he showed made it impossible for you not to care. Vin, if I accidentally touch the forbidden riches of your heart someday, would you have a problem with that? Vin is slightly taken aback as he wasn't expecting the conversation to suddenly shift toward him. Of course, I just mean if... Before you can finish your sentence, Vin laughs.
걱정 말아요. 당신이라면 크게 신경 쓰이진 않을 테니까요. 제가 전에 했던 말을 기억할지 모르겠지만 당신이 저라는 책을 읽고 있는 듯한 느낌이 든다고 했었어요. 이번의 내용을 조금 추가하자면
Vin leans in closer to you, his pale golden eyes unmistakably clear, calm.
이 책은 언제나 당신에게 열려 있어요. 책 속에서 비밀이 발견돼도 당신에겐 금지 구역이 아닌 거죠. 당신이 그 안에 숨겨진 걸 찾아낸다면 오히려 행복할 것 같아요.
Huh? You weren't expecting a response like that from Vin. You nod practically unconsciously as you look into his eyes. I get it. But there are always exceptions, so if there's ever a unique situation, remember that you can tell me exactly how you feel. Vin stares at you for a moment before nodding with a serious expression. He then looks out the window and smiles.
정원에 산책하러 갈래요? 꽃을 따서 차로 우려줄게요.
Sounds great. You put away the VR set on the table and head out to the garden together. Gardens of Wind's residence. Sloping sun rays beam down on the colorful flowers as a delicate aroma floats on the breeze. This is the result of Vin's meticulous care. Vin picks up the storage box under the flower shelf. He then pulls out his gardening tools and slips on his gloves before stepping forward. After looking around for a bit, Vin chooses the flowers and gets to work. How pretty! I feel like I see something new every time I come back here.
꽃은 존재만으로도 예술이 되는 것 같아요.
Vin abruptly stops arranging the flowers as if he had a sudden thought. Huh?
깜빡할 뻔했네요. 전부터 당신한테 꽃과 관련된 걸로 서프라이즈를 해주고 싶었거든요. 얼마 전에 꽃을 식재료들과 섞어서 새로운 걸 만들어 볼까 했는데 드디어 방향을 잡았어요.
What is it? As you look into Vin's expectant gaze, you remember him mentioning offhand that he wanted to try mixing some new ingredients. However, he didn't say much about it, so you assume he just lost interest. To your surprise, he'd been experimenting this whole time.
우선 드디어 완성된 시원한 꽃 음료예요. 우리 둘이 먹기 딱 좋은 2인용 꽃 디저트도 있어요. 또 하나는 꽃 드레싱인데 새콤달콤한 맛과 매콤 짭짤한 맛 두 가지로 만들었어요. 그동안 여러 번 실패했는데 당신이 오기 전에 겨우 완성됐죠. 이따 점심 때 곁들여 먹어볼까요?
Sure, I'm sure they are going to be delicious since you met them.
늘 이렇게 아낌없이 믿어주다니 정말 행복해요.
Vin smiles again, the shifting sunlight creating a gentle glow around him. As you gaze at the light and shadow blanketing him, you can't help but imagine the particular happiness he mentioned. I think I'll always be happy. Do you know why? Vin follows your question and asks.
왜죠?
Because we'll have the chance to try so many new things together. After we retire, we could open a flower shop or run a cafe together, or maybe owning a bookstore or something. Doesn't it sound nice? We can take care of a garden together, mix streams, organize the bookshelves. As a floral scent blows by on the breeze, you look into Vin's eyes to see a different emotion brewing.
당신이 말한 그런 미래가 정말 기대되네요.
Perhaps due to the dazzling sun, you are left speechless for a moment. Vin's response was incredibly sincere. The flowers act as a foil, his gaze fixed on you. The slight floral aroma permeates the air, slowly seeping into the future. When the basics of flower preparation are done, Vin stands up and smooths out his clothes.
거의 다 된 것 같네요. 먼저 가서 점심을 준비할게요.
I'll come with you. As you stand up, he lowers his head to gently kiss your forehead. Soon after, he looks straight ahead again and leads you into the kitchen. A soft kiss like that seems as natural as breathing to him, but it still inevitably tugs at your heartstrings. Several important belongings have already been moved to the new house. Even so, there are still plenty of things to use in the old house. With that, your lunch is soon ready. The scent of food had already begun to permeate the room while cooking. As you two sit down at the dining table, Vin suddenly looks over at you. You seem slightly distracted today. Is something bothering you? You didn't think Vin would be able to pick up on it. There's something I want to ask you, but I don't know if I should. It looks like it is very important to you. Yeah, all the more reason for you to tell me. There is nothing we cannot talk about. Vince's decisive, encouraging tone allows you to finally let go of your anxiety. Okay, let's talk while we eat. Perhaps due to the food, or maybe because the atmosphere is just right, you feel yourself calming down after bringing up the thing that's been bothering you. Well, a few days ago, a man named Alder Caldwell hired me to represent him in a lawsuit. He wants to sue his friend Era Frost's parents. Sue his friend's parents? Yeah, earlier today, you pull up the video that Alder Caldwell sent to you and show it to Vin. The video shows a tired, haggard man sitting in the pantry. It's the man who came to see you today, Alder Caldwell. Miss Herrera, can someone sue the parents for child abuse and life manipulation? You are left stunned for a moment when he asked this question. Sir, are you experiencing something like that? It's not me, it's my childhood friend, Era Frost. It's as if Caldwell's furious voice is being forced out from between his teeth. Era's parents have been abusing her blood-related daughter. Can I help her sue them? Then where's Miss Frost? Caldwell smiles bitterly. Era couldn't be here. She can't even leave the house by herself now. I'm practically certain that Era doesn't have the ability to act for herself now. Her parents are using her as a tool. I'm worried her life will be destroyed if this keeps up, He clenches his fist tightly, full of rage and sorrow for his childhood friend. It is undeniably illegal for one to abuse their children. If what you say is true and there is sufficient evidence, they will face lawful punishment. I have evidence. Caldwell hands you a document bag he's been gripping tightly alongside his phone. I'll take a look. For some reason, his expression grows somewhat uneasy after he hands the evidence over. After taking the bag from him and opening it, you understand the reason for the change in Caldwell's expression. There are only two pieces of evidence inside. One is a handwritten letter from Alder Caldwell himself, and the other is a picture of a thin, weak woman with bruises on her arms. In other words, Caldwell might not have any other substantial evidence. Is the person in the picture Miss Frost? Yes, it's Era. Oh, and I have a video too, here. Upon hearing your question, Caldwell hastily grabs his phone and taps on a video that is less than a minute long. The lighting in the video is quite dim. Era Frost frankly looks out the distant window in front of her as she murmurs. Alder, stop trying to convince me. Everything is my fault. My parents are right. I messed everything up. I should have listened to my family from the beginning. If I wasn't such a failure, my mom and dad wouldn't have to worry so much about money. After saying this, she smiles faintly at the camera. Her smile is robotic, as if she has mastered displaying this expression. Even so, it does nothing to conceal the sadness in her eyes. As the video ends, you can feel your heart becomes heavy. It's clear from the video that Era Frost isn't doing well, but using this alone as evidence wouldn't be enough. Miss Caldwell, do you have any other evidence, particularly anything detailing Era Frost's parents' involvement? Audio or video recordings would work. Is this not enough evidence? It isn't, Mr. Caldwell. I understand what you're going through, and I'm worried about Miss Frost too, but I have to be honest with you. If you rely on this evidence alone, it won't be enough for a conviction. What's more, although this concerns Miss Frost, she is currently unable to provide relevant evidence according to what you mentioned before. The light in Caldwell's eyes slowly dims, as if his last hope has vanished. You guys are all saying the same thing. Does that mean it's really hopeless? You guys? I went to the police for help before. They even visited Era's house to check up on her, but they didn't find anything out of the ordinary. I went to them again later with this evidence, but they told me it was insufficient and it would be hard to file a case. I see. But this is all I can get. Era's parents don't allow other people to see her very often. They let me talk to her because we were neighbors and grew up together, but they didn't give me much time. Miss Ferreira, are you really not able to do anything? Why can't anyone help Era out of this? Cotwell's eyes are bloodshot. He has obviously not slept well in a long time. He's been doing everything in his power to help his friend be happy, but justice still hasn't been served. Maybe there's something we could do. Cotwell is surprised and he immediately straightens up in his seat. Really? Mishwara, if there's something you can do, please help me. Can you tell me more about Miss Frost? The more details, the better. Atlas' hope reignites and he nods repeatedly. I'll tell you about Era's situation. The company she worked for went bankrupt last year and she lost her job. After that, her husband had another affair and left her. She was extremely shocked and hurt back then, but her parents didn't do anything to comfort her. They just kept telling her what a disappointment she was. They just wanted her to find a rich guy and get married again as soon as possible. That way she could help her family out with money. First of all, they're advertising her to people everywhere. They've even done it at their apartment complex gate before. I saw it myself. They don't care about Era's feelings whatsoever. It's like she's just a tool for them to make money off of. Caldwell grips the document back in his hands. He looks furious, but there is also an ambiguous pain in his expression. Next time you see that happening, take a picture to use as evidence. Okay, I will. And, Mr. Caldwell, what makes you think Miss Frost might be being abused? Era and I grew up together and we hang out together outside of work. I know her better than anyone. Era's always been a happy person. She wasn't even upset when she lost her job. She said she wanted to go back to our hometown and open up her own store, but now she's a completely different person. Strange marks have been showing up on her body too. You're unsure what he suddenly thought of, but Cutler blocks his mouth with his fist as if he can't continue. In reality, the strongest evidence for a conviction would be Miss Frost herself. But Era does everything her parents tell her to now. It's so hard for me to convince her. Then, have you considered having a psychiatrist evaluate Miss Frost? Yeah, I went to so many doctors, but nothing came of it. Why? It's hard to get Era out of the house now, let alone to see a doctor. I understand. After hearing all of this, Vin finally gets the picture. A tool. His brow is furrowed as he murmurs to himself, but a smile is still present in his gaze when he looks up at you. It sounds like you already had me in mind when you mentioned seeing a psychiatrist, didn't you? Yeah, how'd you know? I had a feeling. Perhaps our hearts are connected. I really did think of you right away. Vince's eyes sparkle. He is clearly happy you confirmed it without any hesitation. I understand. So this is what has been bothering you. Yeah, I wasn't sure if I'd be troubling you if I told you. I don't want to force you into anything. That's the most important thing to me. I'd rather you make a decision based on your own judgment and what your heart says. I understand. His expression is somewhat ambiguous, seemingly deep in thought. Miss Frost's situation sounds quite complex. Do you have any other information? Vin doesn't immediately agree or disagree. Instead, he is carefully considering it like you hope he would, which is a big relief. Let me think. Mr. Caldwell mentioned a few more things today. He said Era Frost's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Frost, are usually really cautious. It's hard for him to gather any clues or things that could be used as evidence. He doesn't want to spook Mr. and Mrs. Frost either, since he's worried they might try to conceal the evidence before he can do anything about it. Vin thinks for a moment and then nods. That is good thinking on Mr. Caldwell's part. If he is too reckless, Mr. and Mrs. Frost might even do something more extreme after he is out of the picture. Exactly. Since Mr. Caldwell can't collect any more evidence, we can only start by treating Miss Era Frost. And Mr. and Mrs. Frost are using their daughter as a tool. Vin frowns, takes a deep breath, then fiddles with the glass filled with his ice floral drink. It is a bit stuffy in here. Shall we go back out to the garden? We can get some fresh air and continue discussing this. Yeah, sure. A bit stuffy? You look over to your side confused. The living room windows are all open and the breeze is circulating the air nicely. It isn't stuffy at all. And Vin looked a little anxious just now. Did talking to him about this upset him? Vin doesn't pay any mind to the uncleared dishes on the dining table. He loosens his collar and smooths out the wrinkles on his shirt. He then stands up and walks back toward the garden with you. Now that you are out in the open air, Vin brews 2 cups of black tea. He places one on the table in front of you, then sits down. You both drink your tea in silence, but his expression appears somewhat complicated the entire time. We can continue our conversation from just now. Mr. and Mrs. Frost are using her as a tool to maintain the family's finances. They may have even utilized abusive methods to force Miss Era Frost into obeying them, correct? Vince's gaze is fixed on the tea in his cup as he speaks. It seems like his mind is somewhere else. The interwoven tree branches overhead are reflected in the tea, like intertwining thoughts. Right. Coupled with his complex expression, Vince's strange behavior just now makes you feel like something's wrong. Vin, are you worried about something? cool fingers gently rest on your cheek. You raise your head to meet Vince's gaze. You can smell the delicate floral aroma hanging on him. No, I suddenly thought of something else just now. Something else? There was an incident I once encountered in Swart. It was quite similar to Miss Era Frost's situation. It was similar? You want to continue pressing the subject, but Vin averts his gaze. It seems he doesn't want to dive into this topic. With that, a vaguely helpless smile reveals itself on his face. I am sorry. Please give me a few minutes to think about it calmly before I respond. It might make you think I am a little strange, but I must admit that I am unable to provide completely rational judgment sometimes, especially when it comes to you. When Vince says this, he turns away slightly. It's as if he doesn't want you to catch a glimpse of the complicated emotions in his eyes. I do not want to let you down, but I do not want you to think I force myself into making a choice. I understand. I was even more confused a few days ago. I'll wait for you in the living room. An afternoon breeze blows by, tousling their hair hanging over Vince's forehead. It seems like your calm attitude has relaxed him. Alright. You follow a few steps behind Vin, watching as he walks upstairs. You're not sure if he went to the bedroom or the study. As you walk into the living room, deep inside, you have a growing feeling that something is off. Knowing Vin, he's never struggled to decide whether or not to accept a kiss before. He accepts anyone qualified for his treatment outright and decisively turns down anyone who isn't. He then objectively recommends those patients to other doctors. But why is he so hesitant this time? You remember all the odd reactions Vin had while you were talking about this issue. He mentioned the word "troll" twice. It seems like he is very concerned about it. He also said that Miss Era Frost's situation is similar to something he encountered in Swart. Just as you are lost in thought, you hear Vince's footsteps coming down the stairs. He then walks over to you. At first glance, the look on his face seems to be the same as before. However, you can sense that something's changed. I thought it over, and I will agree to treat her. He is incredibly serious and resolute. Clearly, he made this decision after thinking about it very carefully. You will? Vince smiles as he nods. But could you maybe explain your thought process to me? After considering it for a moment, you decide to be frank. Because seeing you like that made me a little worried. Vince sits down next to you. My hesitation had nothing to do with the matter at hand. It is just... Miss Era Frost's experience is similar to something I encountered before in Swart. It has been a long time since that incident, but it still disturbs me whenever I think about it. I did not want to make a decision while I was feeling like that. Vin, as a psychiatrist, I must be in a completely rational state of mind before I can even begin to discuss accepting a case. Only then can I give you the best possible response and remain responsible for the patient. Okay, I understand. You can tell that Vin is still avoiding the main issues. Maybe he thinks it still isn't the right time to tell you. You also don't want to probe further just when he started feeling better about it. Oh, I also thought up a tentative plan just now. But it is still lacking substance, so we will have to go over it together. That was quick. Vin picks up the teaware in front of him as he explains. From what I understand, Mr. Caldwell came to you because he wants to help Miss Era Frost sue her parents and free her from the current life she is living. Vin places the teapot in the middle, then places 2 teacups on either side to represent Alder, Caldwell, and Era Frost. You point to one of the teacups. Right, but because the initial evidence is insufficient and no more can be collected at this time, we can only start by treating Miss Frost. Vin, what's your plan? Vin taps on the lid covering the teapot. It is very simple. Let me meet with Miss Frost. Considering Miss Frost's situation and her parents' behavior, we probably can't go straight to her house to see her. Vin pulls his hand back, pushing up his glasses and thinking for a moment. Perhaps we can change our approach. He picks up the teacup next to him and moves it closer to himself. We can have her come see me. See you? Yes, there must be a situation or occasion when she has to leave the house. A situation when she has to leave the house. Even if it is not for herself. Vin is seemingly trying to give you a hint, leading you toward the plan he has in mind. Not for herself? Oh, are you saying... Perhaps we can start by getting Mr. Caldwell to help us. For example, if he needs to see a doctor and must be accompanied by a trusted companion. I got it. Based on what Mr. Caldwell said, he is the only friend that Miss Frost had kept in contact with. If he could come up with a plausible reason, Miss Frost might come along with him. That is the tentative plan. As for the specifics, we had better discuss them after meeting with Mr. Caldwell. Vin smiles, then continues speaking. We can also put a secondary plan into motion. We will first have Miss Frost meet me. Meanwhile, if Miss Frost comes to see me, her parents will certainly be very worried. It would be a great opportunity for Mr. Caldwell to collect more evidence. After all, those who do evil deeds will unintentionally expose themselves eventually. This isn't a tentative plan, it's already pretty elaborate. Then I'll call Mr. Caldwell now. Alright, we can think about it together on the way. Perhaps there is a safer way to get Miss Frost out of the house. Okay. Caldwell picks up the call immediately. When he hears that Vin is willing to treat Miss Frost, he excitedly promises to meet you both right away. You and Vin get ready to leave for the restaurant and meet with Caldwell. Cafeteria. Only minutes after you and Vin arrive at the restaurant, Caldwell rushes over panting. Hello, I'm Alder Caldwell. Miss Sharara, this must be Dr. Richter. Hello, Mr. Caldwell. After greeting one another, Caldwell sits down across from you and Vin, his demeanor somewhat stiff. Maybe because he picked up on this, Vin hands him the menu outlining the afternoon tea you both just ordered. There is no need to be nervous. You can order a drink to relax a bit first if you like. I hope we can calmly consider everything and discuss how to best solve this issue. Okay, sure. Caldwell takes the menu gratefully. After looking at it for a moment, he orders a cup of coffee. With that, Vin immediately gets down to business. Mr. Caldwell, I will get straight to the point. I agreed to take on this case and have heard about Miss Frost's case from Sharara, but I may need you to give me some additional details. This will help me understand the patient on a deeper level, making it easier for us to think of a strategy and allowing me to consider future treatment options. That's no problem. I'll do what I can do to cooperate, Dr. Richter. Alright, then I will ask a few questions. You can tell me anything that comes to mind concerning the topic. Caldwell nods, Vin thinks for a moment, then begins his line of questioning. You mentioned to Sharara that there were noticeable abnormal changes in Miss Ross's mood due to the influence of her parents. Would you mind telling me more about that? Although Caldwell sighed. Hi, there are many examples. Whatever Era says and does nowadays, it all seems to fall into a false habit of not causing trouble for her parents. She's always says stuff like, it's all my fault, or I'm just making things harder for my parents. Most of the time, she wears a smile when facing everyone, like she doesn't even care if she's in pain. Although Caldwell clenches his fist tightly, his eyes full of care and pity for Era Frost. Even though we're neighbors, I'm usually pretty busy, so I can't watch over her all the time. People have told me several times that she went up to the rooftop to look at the scenery by herself. It scared me a little. Caldwell smiles bitterly. His gaze is full of pain. Dr. Richter, I'm really afraid she won't be able to handle it anymore one day, and Vin, who was observing Caldwell as he spoke, furrowed his brow when he hears this, similarly perturbed. Then, when Miss Frost's life was going well before, how was her relationship with her parents? Caldwell can't help but chuckle resignedly. Relationship? I don't even know how to describe it. Era's parents are like a black hole that sucks up every last bit of her strength. You and Vin share a surprised glance. What makes you say that? Era's parents are always asking her for money. Half of her paycheck goes to her family when she gets paid every month. I hope you don't mind me asking, but how do you know that? Did Miss Frost tell you? I knew it by chance. I met her for dinner one night and she happened to pick up a call from her parents. Era was pretty upset after the call ended. Why? Her parents said, every month you barely give us anything. You think this is enough? But Era's company had already started running into problems then. But then I helped Era get through everything until she lost her job and went back to her hometown. I thought going back would make her feel better about everything. But I had no idea she would be like this when I saw her again half a year later. It's my fault. I realized it too late. I see. Caldwell looks at Vin, his anxiety clear as day. Dr. Richter, if there's any way to treat Era, please tell me. Whatever you need, I'll do it. Vin appears slightly troubled. I do not mean to discourage you, but I am afraid there is a fact we must face. What? Caldwell looks at Vin nervously, waiting for him to continue. If I am not mistaken, her parents keep a close eye on Miss Frost regardless of where she goes. Perhaps you cannot even see Miss Frost if they are not around, am I right? Caldwell's eyes widen slightly, displaying his shock at Vin's theory. Yeah, exactly. Dr. Richter, how did you know? How did you know? You and Alder Caldwell asked the same question almost simultaneously. Weird, I don't think I mentioned that detail to Vin. I know how talented Vin is, but he isn't psychic, right? Or is he seriously reading Caldwell's mind? Perhaps because you and Caldwell are overly astonished, Vin is stunned for a moment himself. He then regains his composure, picking up the teacup in front of him and taking a sip. It was only a guess. You grow even more suspicious when Vin says this. Just as you recall Vin's strange behavior from this afternoon, you are suddenly struck by a possibility. Could his guess have something to do with the incident he experienced in Swart? After all, if the situation was similar, it will also follow similar logic. But you can only keep this thought to yourself for now and wait until the right time to ask him again. Mishra said you were a meticulous thinker, Dr. Richter. It looks like she was right. Alright, those are all the questions I have. Mr. Caldwell, thank you for your response. However, I still need to make something clear. You are the key to saving Miss Frost. Why am I the key? Because you are the person Miss Frost currently trusts most. Naturally, my treatment plan will also require your cooperation. I understand, Dr. Richter. Just say the word and I'll do whatever I can to cooperate. For this treatment plan to be successful, Miss Frost must remove herself from her family's control and be willing to seek help from a psychiatrist. I believe she's willing to do that. Back when Era's company was going bankrupt and she still hadn't gone home yet, she was pretty upset and mentioned to me that she wanted to see a psychiatrist, but then she went home and you guys know what happened next. Hey, Dr. Richter, you said Era needs to temporarily leave her family's control. How are we going to make that happen? How is your relationship with Miss Frost? For example, if you ask her to come outside, would she? Caldwell nods firmly. She would mostly likely agree. But her parents. Vince smiles self-assuredly as if he is already in control of the situation. In that case, we have a chance. Huh? Then, Mr. Caldwell, you will need to put on a performance with us. A performance? Even you are left a little surprised. Vin didn't mention this detail at home, so maybe this is something he thought up on the way. Just then, Vin pulls a business card out of his pocket. My clinic is holding a special psychology lecture in a few days. All you need to do is try your best to pretend you require psychological help from the second you step foot in Miss Frost's house. It does not matter if her parents are present. In fact, it would be even better if they were there. There is a determination in Vince's case. Do you mean to put on a performance for them? Yes, put on a performance that will cause them to lower their guard. And in the meantime, you should find an opportunity to hint to Miss Frost that she could come with you as a companion. She should voluntarily offer to accompany you. I will only be able to further understand the current situation after meeting her. Caldwell has a sudden epiphany upon hearing this. I understand. I'll try my best. No, to help Era escape this life, I'll definitely put on a great performance. Good. Remember, if something unexpected happens or if you feel like things are going south, contact us at any time. Right, we have to ensure Miss Frost's mental health and safety. Got it. I'll head back now and let you guys know if I have any news. Thank you, Dr. Richter and Miss Sherrera. See you later. After Caldwell leaves, you and Vin also get ready to depart. Should we go straight back home or we can take a walk around here? Vin thinks for a moment before responding. Breathe. You've clearly made progress and have a solid plan, but Vin doesn't look very happy for some reason. You can't shake the feeling that something's bothering him, even so you don't know how to bring it up and are worried you're just overthinking it. Just then, Vin looks at you with an anxious look in his eyes. How do you feel about the plan? Did you notice any holes, or are you concerned about any of the details? Vin's tone sounds a little hesitant, which is out of the ordinary. He isn't one to easily doubt his own judgment or plans. As for why he's acting so strange, you can't help but recall a certain incident from his past that he's avoided talking about. I don't think there are any holes in the plan, but I am worried about something. What is it? I'm wondering, what if Mr. and Mrs. Frost want to go with them? Will they notice something's off right away and do something to intervene? That is certainly a possibility, but Vin looks at the street up ahead. You're not sure what he's thinking, but he suddenly chuckles coldly. If they insist, then let them come. Huh? Are you already prepared for that outcome? I have considered several possibilities. If Mr. Cardwell is only able to somewhat convince Mr. and Mrs. Frost over these next few days, it will be enough. As long as Mr. Cardwell brings Miss Era Frost to the lecture, I am absolutely confident she will receive treatment. Concerning this point, Vince seems extremely sure. But this confidence is in contrast with the somber expression on his face, confusing you even further. Oh, Vin, is there anything I can do on the day of the lecture? Of course, I was actually just thinking about how to tell you. Because this plan needs you from the beginning, it will not work without you. Just as you had me in mind when you were thinking about this situation a few days ago, I had you in mind too. How can I help? You will need to play an employee at the clinic and act alongside me. And if Mr. and Mrs. Frost attempt to interfere as I am treating her, you can use your most powerful weapons. And attorney's weapons are justice and the law, of course. Okay, just leave it to me. Time flies by and the day of the clinic's lecture arrives. Reception room. You and Vin get there early. As you are about to enter from the side door, you discover that the situation is turning out exactly as Vin had predicted. Sure enough, Era Frost's parents came along as well. I hope everything goes smoothly. You pretend to cast a casual glance at Alder Cardwell and Era Frost. As if he detects your gaze, Cardwell looks over at you covertly and nods. After the host introduces the event, Vin walks over from the side. You both look at each other, then around the venue. As suspected. At present, the situation is still within the bounds of your expectations. Vin then steps forward to begin a seemingly typical lecture on psychology. In the beginning, Vin shares quite a bit of psychological knowledge. It is hardly profound. In fact, you could even say it's easily understandable. Vin continues until a certain moment when he switches off the electronic screen behind him and his expression shifts. You can tell right away that he is ready to cut to the chase. What I just described are issues that everyone encounters in their daily lives. However, they can be difficult to recognize. People can be like that sometimes. They believe what they are doing is right or that other people's opinions are correct. but they do not realize that certain things or opinions can act as traps and leads to confusion. Alright, after listening to all of this, I am sure you all must have some thoughts. I have prepared a few questions and I would like to randomly pick a person here to answer. You carefully glance over at Mr. and Mrs. Frost sitting in a back row. They are constantly looking over in Era Frost's direction, seemingly on alert. Vin reaches out, pointing at Alder Caldwell. How about you, sir? Is that alright? Alder Caldwell deliberately acts restless, tugging on Era Frost's sleeve. He asked if it was alright. Era, do you think I can answer? Era Frost is constantly smiling. The same exact smile is still present even when she looks at Vin, as if it is a set procedure for her. She nods at Caldwell without hesitation, her smile persisting. You can do it, Alder. We came here so you could see a doctor, and it sounds like he really knows what he's talking about. You can do it. Give it a shot. The way Era Frost talks seems a little off. It is somehow different than the way people typically speak. Okay, if you say so, Era, please continue, Doctor. Very good. What do you think about the relationship between parents and their children? Caldwell begins violently pulling on his hair. I don't know. Everyone is just chill and hypocritical, no matter what relationship it is. Other attendees begin to whisper. Caldwell's behavior makes them realize that he is sick, and it may even be very serious. What they don't know is that Vin and Caldwell had already discussed this in advance. Alright, next question. What do you think about love? Caldwell looked slightly shocked, as if he wasn't expecting Vin to ask this question. Caldwell's almost knocked out of character, but after a quick glance over at Era Frost, he reacts right away. Love probably isn't for someone like me. Forget it, I gave up all hope in this world a long time ago. Love doesn't matter either. Era Frost's smile falters a little, and Finn quickly takes note. Alder, don't say that. Look at me. I'm the one who was abandoned by love. It was all my fault. Caldwell interrupts Era Frost, growing even more irritable. Era Frost's focus quickly shifts from herself to Caldwell, and she starts confronting him. Vince smoothly moves past the topic when he sees this. He then gets ready for the conclusion of the lecture. Soon, the lecture comes to a close. Now that the lecture has ended, a consultation and treatment phase will follow. At this time, the attendees take a number. Following the employee's instructions, they line up at the side door to the consultation rooms. Due to the unique nature of this event, every attendee has a companion accompanying them. The patient's companion is the only one allowed to enter the consultation room with them. As an employee explains the process up front, you smile at Vin as he walks over to the side door. Don't worry, leave everything to me. Alright, if something happens, just send me a message or call me. I will head into the consultation room now. Only a few minutes after Vin leaves, you spot Caldwell and Era Frost walking around next to you. Era, I want to go in. There are so many things I don't understand. I'm so confused. Era, will you go with me? I'm scared to go alone. Alder, what are you thinking? Of course, I'll go with you. We already agreed before we came. Besides, I'd worry if you went in alone. Let's go. You breathe a secret sigh of relief. Other attendees looking for a consultation start to line up too. Just then, you glance over at Mr. and Mistress Frost. They look somewhat anxious and are whispering to one another in the back. You remain calm on the surface, following the line to the door to Vince's consultation room. You stand near the consultation room door pretending to be an employee. Some patients and their companions have already lined up. When it comes to Caldwell's turn, Era Frost heads right in with him. Soon after, Mr. and Mistress Frost come over. They nervously glance at the consultation room door. As they walk over, you overhear their hushed conversation. They are seemingly expressing their frustration. Doesn't that doctor look pretty skillful? Yeah, it looks like he doesn't mess around. It's hard to guess what he's thinking. What should we do? Will he realize something's off? Why don't we go get Era and take her home? Quiet down. Do you think I'm not worried too? I was going to take her to meet that rich man next week, but then this happened. Use that tone with me? Are you blaming me? Aldo and Era have always been close, but when she saw him acting strange, she got anxious and wouldn't listen to us. Don't you think that's a problem? If she says something out of line next week, we're done for. So I'm asking you, what are you going to do about it? What am I going to do? I'm going to get Era out of here this second. Just as they reach their breaking point and hurry over to the consultation room door, you rush forward. I'm sorry, but you can't go inside. You will be held legally responsible if you interfere with the doctor's treatment process. All attendees seeking consultation have signed an agreement. No one is allowed to enter apart from their companion. Legally responsible? Well, perhaps due to your blunt, assertive attitude, or maybe because onlookers are beginning to take notice of them, Mr. and Mistress Frost don't push the issue. However, they still walk off to the side and wait there, frustrated. You let out an inward sigh of relief. Phew, I guess I've successfully stopped them. Looking at their tough attitude just now, I even considered calling the police for help. Treatment room. After nearly 2 hours, the consultation room door finally opens. Mr. and Mistress Frost immediately stride in, intending to barge into the private treatment room further inside. With a single glance from Vin, Mr. and Mistress Frost's arrogance dissipates in an instant. I apologize, but the treatment area is off limits. It seems as if Era Frost's parents are slightly fearful of Vin. They glance at him, only mustering up the courage to stand outside the door and call Era's name. A few minutes later, Caldwell and Era Frost come out of the consultation room. Era Frost is seemingly lost in her world, deep in thought. Maybe Vince's treatment helped her. She isn't forcing herself to smile anymore. Shouldn't we head out? Yes, you're a healthy person. Why even come to a place like this? It's bad luck. What do you mean by a place like this? Are you two implying that the psychotherapy center is non-compliant? Vin interrupts Mr. and Mrs. Frost's conversation with a somewhat assertive attitude. Furthermore, the one receiving a consultation is Mr. Caldwell. Why are you two so concerned about his companion? Is it possible that Miss Era Frost may also have issues she would like to ask for help with? Don't be absurd. My daughter has no issues whatsoever. She's completely fine. Well, I would hope so. Vin retorts with a cold smile, his gaze full of scrutiny. Therefore, there is one more thing I must make clear. Mr. Caldwell is currently undergoing the initial treatment process, so he absolutely cannot be separated from his companion, Miss Era Frost. I suggest you let Mr. Caldwell stay at your home so Miss Era Frost can more easily care for him. Patients can only leave their companions in the middle and late stages of treatment. Huh? That's ridiculous. How can we just let Aldous stay at our house? If you disagree, as a doctor, I have the right to allow the patient and his companion to stay at the clinic instead. In that case, it can save me the trouble too. Well, I also hope you two will not interfere with the patient in any way that could affect the treatment process. If you do and something happens, you will be responsible for the consequences. Mr. and Mistress Frost are left speechless, their words caught in their throat. They will naturally choose the first option. That way, they won't have to worry about their daughter having contact with others in the outside world, especially with an enigmatic psychiatrist like Finn. Alright, we'll let Aldous stay with us temporarily. No surprises there. With that, you glance over at Finn. The reason you were able to guess the outcome is that you and Vin had anticipated this possibility before. Vin's living room. It would be best for Miss Era Frost and Mr. Caldwell to stay at the clinic, but Mr. and Mrs. Frost will most likely never agree. And if they attempt to replace me with a doctor they are more familiar with, things will turn out even worse. You're right. That's definitely a possibility, and if they really do choose to do that, I'm worried that Era Frost won't ever be able to escape from being a tool. So we can only let them select one of the two options. We can use staying at the clinic to lure them into choosing the other option. Good idea. I think it will work. Treatment room. After Mr. and Mrs. Frost leave with Era and Caldwell, you and Vin also get ready to head out. Vin, why don't we get something to eat at a restaurant nearby before we head back? We should treat ourselves after such a busy day. Alright, we can choose a restaurant together. Sure, maybe we could try something we don't usually eat. Good idea. Trying something new can also ease your feeling of weariness. You must have felt quite stressed when you were dealing with Mr. and Mrs. Frost just now, right? Yeah, I really can't begin to describe that feeling. Then we can talk about it while we eat. I will be happy to listen. Vin leans in, gently kissing you on the cheek. You and Vin talk about what had happened today during dinner. After your busy day, you decide to relax nearby at your old house. Vin's living room. When you return home, you finally feel some semblance of relief at the thought that things are proceeding according to plan. Phew. Vin sits down and lets out a relief sigh. He rubs his throat and leans back on the sofa. You walk over and rub his shoulders before sitting down next to him. Take a good rest. You must be tired. When we were eating just now, I could see tiredness written all over your face. Vin subconsciously touches his face. Is it that obvious? Not that much, just a little. Maybe it is because I can fully relax in front of you. And I do not want to hide anything from you. I'm glad. I worry about you otherwise. Vin smiles, but his brow is still somewhat furrowed. It's as if something has constantly been making him feel uncomfortable. But, Vin, I feel like something is bothering you. Did something happen at the clinic that concerns you? You can tell me anytime, anything you know. Vin wrapped his arms around you. I learned more about Miss Era Frost through the initial treatment phase. After she lost her job and went back home, she went through a divorce. That is what led her parents to begin controlling her work and marriage. She was originally planning on going back home to open up a flower shop. She also wanted to rid herself of the shadow of her failed first marriage. However, her parents began using her as a tool to financially support their family. They demeaned her constantly, causing her to lose sight of herself. No wonder Mr. Caldwell was wearing that expression when he asked me to take the case. Her parents' behavior is ruining her future. You can't help but feel upset and saddened. I do not disagree with your point of view. Due to her parents' subsequent abuse and rhetoric that borders on brainwashing, she handles conflicts and discrepancy from the outside world differently than typical people would. Do you mean she always feels like it's her fault? It's her fault? Yes, her first reaction is to ask her parents for their opinions to seek out their help. She believes anything her parents say must be correct. That lines up with her past behavior. So, how did Miss Era Frost's initial consultation go? I realized that she was behaving a bit differently after she came out of the room. Vin thinks for a moment, gauging the current treatment process. After observing her condition today, I plan on using a progressive treatment plan. That way, she can get used to it before I increase the intensity of the treatment later. It seemed to work well. From my experience, I believe that is because she subconsciously has a desire to serve herself. Otherwise, we would not be seeing results this fast. Barring anything unexpected, this method can gradually help her heal. There is no doubt present in Vince's words, as if he's simply stating a fact. You're well aware that he's always been very confident when it comes to his profession. That's good to hear. You probably didn't know, but I was so worried about the treatment process and was nervously staring at Mr. and Mistress Frost when I stood at the door to the consultation room today. I felt like one pair of eyes and one brain just aren't enough. Vin can't stop himself from laughing when he hears this. If you had more, you would turn into an alien, no? If I could stop bad guys and fight crime, being an alien wouldn't be such a bad thing. You always have so many uniquely wonderful ideas. I'll take that as a compliment from my wide imagination. Paired with his confident attitude just now, Vince's happy expression inevitably reminds you of his strange reactions and avoidance earlier. Maybe because the atmosphere now is just right, you can't stop yourself from asking the question that's been on your mind for a long time. Vin, could I ask a question that might encroach on the forbidden riches of your heart? As I said before, nothing is forbidden when it comes to you. What would you like to know? Vin seems very interested to know what you're going to see next. Okay, first, why have you been acting strange the past few days? It seems like you are concerned about the word tool, right? And you also said Miss Era Frost's situation is similar to something you experienced in Spark. What was it? Perhaps Vin wasn't expecting you to ask these questions. He is a little taken aback. Even so, there isn't any rejection or denial in his case. And you were pretty tough on Mr. and Mistress Frost, Justin, which isn't how you would normally act. It's as if he doesn't know where to look. He thinks for a while before gazing at you. You must have a few guesses, right? I am not surprised. You are always so perceptive. Vin rubs your hair tenderly, giving you a soothing feeling. It was merely something similar that happened in the past. When I was growing up in Swart, I also witnessed someone in my family being used as a tool by his own flesh and blood. Vince gaze wanders. Although he appears to be looking at the flowers on the coffee table, it seems as if he's recalling memories. A tool. No wonder he repeated that word multiple times. His past was linked to it. It was quite a big issue, and it made me realize even your blood-related relatives can make cold-hearted decisions. Later on, he spent over 5 years in treatment, gradually recovering with the help of a psychiatrist. He was once very talented and should have been reaching his full potential at that age, but anyway, it left a deep impression on me. Vin doesn't share the specific incident. You can't help but guess based on what he said. Even though he only witnessed it, he still remembered it after all these years. It's almost as if he experienced it firsthand. It was not my father. Vin immediately picks up on what you're thinking and somewhat apologetically steers the conversation in a different direction. That day, when I heard you had encountered a similar situation, I wanted to remain as calm as possible. But in the end, some strange reaction is still inevitable. It's okay, Vin. I don't mind at all. You understand that he may not be ready to explain it to you right now. No matter what kind of unusual reaction you have, I'll never think it's wrong or that you shouldn't respond that way. Because I'm more worried about the reason behind that unusual behavior. Oh, so I'm not conflicted. I just want to find the right time to get closer to the forbidden riches of your heart. If you're willing to show me the real you and reveal your unusual behavior, it means you really trust me. Vince's eyes seems to sparkle with a delicate light as if your words touch him. Shira, you lean closer and hug him tightly, burying your head in the crook of his neck. He reaches out and rubs your back. It is a comforting gesture as well as a promise. Alright, no matter what happens in the future, we will always be there for each other. We will face everything together, solve any problem together, and move into the future together. Yeah. Vin tightens his arms around you. His warmth transfers from your shoulders to the bottom of your heart. You both need to sort out your intense emotions. Thankfully, the night is long and your love is more than enough. Vin's office. You arrive at the mental health research center at the agreed upon time to find Vin taking a nap. His eyebrows are raised slightly and he looks somewhat exhausted. It's as if he's worried about something even in his dream. Looks like he was so tired that he just fell asleep. Is he dreaming? He looks a little upset. You look around the room and pick up a blanket, gently covering Vin with it. You unsure if it's thanks to the blanket, but Vin's expression relaxed significantly. You sit down off to the side and look at his sleeping face. You can't help but think back on everything that happened recently. Thinking about what happened that night scares me half to death. Vince's living room. After getting home that night and talking for a bit, you and Vin were planning on washing up and going to bed. Just as you finish blow drying your hair, Vince's phone starts vibrating. Huh? At this hour? As Vin walks over and picks up his phone to look at it, his brows furrows a bit. Upon seeing this, you move over to see Caldwell's name displayed on the screen. Mr. Caldwell, why is he calling so late? Vin immediately answers that call and puts it on speakerphone. Caldwell's voice instantly sounds. Dr. Richard, something happened. Something happened to Era. Right now, she's not listening to anyone and she keeps banging her head against the wall. Dr. Richard, what should I do? His desperate words are accompanied by heavy sobs, shocking you so profoundly that you momentarily find it hard to react. Her parents intervened without permission, correct? I was too careless. I don't know why, but today her parents thanked me out of the blue for always taking care of Era and they cooked some food for me. But when I wasn't paying attention, they locked me in the room and took my phone. Later on, I finally got the door open and discovered that they were trying to take Era away by force. We are coming right away. But please try to remain calm before we arrive, or rather, please try to keep Miss Era Frost calm to prevent her from being triggered again. Okay, I'll be waiting for you guys. When you arrive at Frost's house, the room is an absolute mess. Although Caldwell is doing everything in his power to stop Era Frost from hurting herself, he doesn't even let go of her after getting punched and kicked. He looks at you two helplessly, clearly unsure of what to do. Mr. and Mrs. Frost are standing aside, seemingly terrified by her breaking down. They finally snap back to reality as they spot you and Vin approaching. Hey, how did you get in here? Aren't you trespassing on private property? Get out of here or we'll... Vin can't help but interrupt them, his expression icy. Or what? You will call the police? There is no need for that, Miss Herrera, who is an attorney, and I already called the police on our way here. Oh. What the hell are you two trying to do? I am the one who should be asking that question. What are you trying to do to your own daughter? Are you using your own child as a tool for financial gain? Don't you know that's illegal? You and Vin cut right to the chase. After all, Era Frost's safety is the most important thing right now. Mr. and Mrs. Frost look at one another in disbelief. It's as if they never anticipated their dirty laundry would be exposed on a completely unexpected night. What are you saying? We don't know what you are talking about. Yeah, why are you spouting that nonsense? Do you have any evidence? I do. Although Era Frost is about to collapse, Alder Caldwell still holds onto her as he raises his phone. What? You didn't really think locking me in a room and deleting everything off my phone would work, did you? Don't you know you can back up any faults nowadays? This is all evidence that you have been giving Era abnormal psychological cues. I can give it all to the police and experts. they can judge for themselves if you guys have been abusing Era. I didn't just record audio, I took several pictures too. What? I don't know what you are talking about. Though Mr. and Mrs. Frost are still protesting, they clearly aren't fighting back with as much strength as they were before. Vin takes the opportunity and walks forward. Due to the current situation, you have interfered with my normal treatment process. So, I now have the right to allow the patient and companion to continue treatment with the protection of the clinic, free from meddling from irrelevant individuals. Does the companion still have to go to the clinic? Can't the patient just go by himself? Why don't we just hire a caregiver for Alder? Vince slowly starts to laugh, but his gaze is still icy. Perhaps I need to kindly remind you that the person who needs help today is Miss Era Frost. What is he? You're forcing. I am sorry, but Miss Era Frost is well aware of this situation and has willingly agreed to receive treatment. How do you know that? She isn't aware of anything. She's not in her right mind. Right now, she's completely as if she's only now realizing what just slipped out. She suddenly stops talking, her expression turning stiff. Oh, not in her right mind? Would you like to think about what you just said? Mr. and Mrs. Frost are left speechless, the panic apparent on their faces. With that, you successfully get Era Frost out of the house. Vince's office. You sigh, thinking back on how you and Vince hastily took Era Frost and Caldwell to the clinic that night. The anxiety you felt at the time was relieved slightly. However, even though Era Frost was brought back from the edge of a breakdown, Vince soon realized that the issue had grown more complex. This is because Mr. and Mrs. Frost began to give Era Frost negative psychological cues again, so Vince's previous treatment plan had been wasted. Vince stated that the original treatment plan wouldn't work for Era Frost in her current state, so it has to be altered. With that, Vince has been providing Era Frost with basic treatment to stabilize her mood as he simultaneously designs a new treatment plan. I didn't think something like this would happen. Just as you let out a sigh, you hear a rustling noise and turn around to meet Vince's gaze. Huh? When did you wake up? When you were staring off into space just now. I saw that you were thinking about something when I opened my eyes. I was a little curious, so I did not say anything. Vin folds up the blanket and sets it aside. His brow furrows as he looks at the charm. He no longer looks as relaxed as he just did. How is Miss Era Frost doing today? Her condition has stabilized. According to my assessment, she can officially begin the new treatment plan. Vin has mentioned before that specific psychotherapy requires the patient's emotions to be in a normal, controlled state for an extended time. If a patient rushes into treatment when they are out of control or unable to calm down, it could easily make things worse. That's great to hear. Yes. Vin doesn't give much of a response for some reason. He averts his gaze, clearly thinking about something. Shall we go for a walk? We can find somewhere to have lunch. I came here after finishing my morning treatments. I wanted to relax for a bit while I waited for you, but I did not think I would fall asleep. Since you are here, could we set out now? Vin purposefully changes the topic. It would be strange for you to keep talking about Era Frost, so you simply nod in agreement. Okay, a walk sounds perfect. Alright, let us be on our way. You wander around the nearby streets after heading downstairs. Whenever you see something that interests you, both you head inside and take a look together. Even though you and Vin talk about your day along the way, you have a gut feeling that there's something on his mind. Just then, you realize that you're walking right by a flower shop. You thought Vin would want to go in and look around, but he walked straight ahead, seemingly distracted. Um, Vin stops as he hears your voice. What is it? You point to the shop next to him. It's a flower shop. You didn't notice. Normally, you'd at least stop and look. It seems like you have something on your mind, Dr. Richter. Vin is somewhat hesitant, not knowing how to respond. You smile and take a step forward to grab onto his arm. I was just messing around. Let's go buy a bouquet. I actually wanted to visit Miss Ross today and I shouldn't show up empty-handed. Can you help me pick something out? Alright, I help you choose some. You don't keep asking Vin what's bothering him, not because it isn't important, but because you want him to tell you after his return to normal. After picking out the flowers, you ask the employee to deliver the bouquet to Genovine Mental Health Research Center, after which you two get ready to find somewhere to have lunch. Well, what would you like to eat? I'm fine with anything. I'd like to find a place we can relax and talk to. What do you think? Alright, there is somewhere like that not too far from here. Okay. You and Vin order some of your favorite dishes at the restaurant, then sit down. But it seems that neither of you have much of an appetite. The frustration and reluctance are apparent on Vin's face, so you reach out to stop him from picking up his fork again. Don't push yourself. Let's just pick up the leftovers and head back if you can't finish it. What? I see. Don't push yourself. You take the fork from Vin's hand and place it in front of him. Vin. When Vin hears you say his name in such a serious tone, he blinks, raising his head to look at you. I am here. There's something on your mind, right? You've been a little distracted this whole time. When we were eating, while we were walking past the flower shop, I can't shake the feeling that you've been acting off ever since you wake up from that nap. Your thoughts all spill out at once. The subtle changes in Vin's expression only prove that your hunch is correct. You are as perceptive as ever. Upon hearing this, you stand up right away and sit down next to him without even thinking about what you're doing. Vin looks vaguely astonished but quickly understands what's going on. A slight smile appears on his lips as if your simple action is enough to put him in a good mood. With that, you lean on his shoulder. Do you know that saying, if you have someone to lean on, you'll never be alone? Leaning on you like this feels great. Where is that saying from? I made it up just now. Vin laughs upon hearing this. The atmosphere is perfect thanks to your close proximity, making it easier to voice your concerns. Vin, are you struggling with something? I suppose so. He reaches out and tucks your head behind your ear. There is a thing I need some time to consider and weigh its pros and cons. I just have not yet figured out how to tell you. Maybe the thing I am concerned about is something others may deem unnecessary. You don't need to worry about that at all. Who decides if something is necessary or not? There is nothing in the law about that. You say this half jokingly. That is true. Sometimes, if you overthink something, you might start to feel like it's unnecessary. But it actually isn't. No one has the right to judge the value of what someone feels in their heart. And I'm more than willing to listen to anything on your mind, even if you think it's boring or unnecessary. I want to know everything. So you can just tell me. Alright, I understand what you mean. Vince smiles, his gaze filled with happiness. Even though he still looks somewhat worried, the feeling isn't as strong as before. There is a garden behind this restaurant. Shall we walk through it while we talk? The sun is perfect today, and it will be nice to get some fresh air. Sure, let's go take a look. The public garden behind the restaurant has a sweeping view and is surrounded by several trees and flowers. Just looking at it improves your mood. No wonder Vin likes it here. Vin leads you to a nearby bench and sits down. You raise your head slightly to look up at the vast sky. A gentle breeze caresses your face as a few leaves slowly fall close by. I'm ready to listen, so you can start whenever. Alright. Vin looks at you deeply before nodding and shifting his gaze to the flowers in front of him. The flowers sway in the wind, their various colors blending like a chaotic mess of thoughts. You are already aware that I am creating a new personalized treatment plan for Miss Frost. But there are some undetermined factors that I must consider carefully. So I called an older gentleman yesterday who is very experienced. His name is Echo. Is he a famous psychiatrist? Yes, remember when I told you a similar situation happened in the Hasbrand family? He was the doctor who treated the patient back then. I remember. What did you guys talk about? Why are those undetermined factors making you anxious? Well, Vin thinks for a moment before he starts to tell you what happened yesterday. It's as if you can see exactly what happened as you hear him describe. No, I disagree. An old yet powerful voice sounds from the other side of the video call, his tone resolute. Vince brows furrow in confusion. Why do you disagree? I do not understand, Mr. Echo. My treatment plan for Miss Frost will be similar to the one you used to in the past, but it will not be an exact copy. I will make decisions based on what she needs. Could you possibly explain why you disagree? That way I can more easily and quickly make adjustments to the plan. An odd groan can be heard coming from the other line. It seems as if Eccles is in a bad mood. The treatment plan I use for a member of the Hasbrand family will not necessarily work for ordinary people. Vin is taken aback for a moment, causing him to remain silent for a few moments in shock. He then thinks of something, his expression growing somewhat cold. I am sorry, but if you give such a vague answer, I have no way of adjusting the treatment plan. By the way, what makes you say the plan you use for the Hasbrand family will not necessarily work for ordinary people? As a medical professional, do you believe there are some things that only people from the husband family can understand or utilize? Axel nods with certainty as if Vin is simply stating a universal fact. I believe it is the same understanding that every person of husband blood possesses. Vin's gaze grows sharper, but his proper upbringing allows him to maintain formal etiquette. Mr. Eckel, I called you for advice because I want to ensure that my patient's treatment plan is safe and reliable. If you simply want to demonstrate your lofty faith in the husband family, I suggest you find a more appropriate occasion in the future. Understood. The person on the other end of the video call is silent for a moment before nodding. He seems somewhat astonished by Vince's apathetic attitude when his family is mentioned. Back to the topic at hand, Mr. Eckel. I hope your judgment will remain objective and logical. The treatment plan you use helped your patient return to normal. Now, I will improve upon it until it is virtually perfect. I have also made several detailed adjustments based on my patient's personal situation. Is there anything else you find inappropriate? Eckel sighed with an apparent reluctance, seemingly considering how to phrase his next statement. Regardless, I believe this treatment plan is more fitting for individuals who have grown up in a complex environment, were forced to mature early, and are strong-willed. Not everyone can completely tear down their cognitive system, reconstruct it, and then return to normal after all. In my 40 years as a professional, there have only been a select few. Vince smiled slightly, revealing a glint of mockery in his expression. I am sorry, but I believe you think too highly of the husband family while underestimating the will of ordinary people. That is essentially what happened. Overall, it was not a very smooth conversation. You can understand why Vin responded the way he did in that situation. So, after hearing what Eccles had to say, you're worried something bad might happen if you use the improved treatment plan with Era Frost? I do not want to confirm anything with absolute certainty, but I am 99% confident in this plan. Even so, I do not want to risk my patient's safety. If there is only a 1% chance that it could be dangerous, I'll still have to be very careful. Do you have any other plans? I have considered a few, but none can compare when evaluated from a comprehensive perspective. Okay, I think I understand the situation now. Just when you are about to help Vin analyze the situation, his phone suddenly rings. It is my assistant. You can hear a voice coming from the phone after Vin picks up the call, but you can't hear exactly what's being said. You only get the feeling that their speech is extremely rushed. What? They did not break in, right? Alright, I understand. We will head back now. Stop them and call the police right away. Vin looks distressed after he hangs up the call. What happened? Mr. and Mrs. Frost showed up on the first floor of the clinic. They were trying to break in, but someone stopped them. It looks like we need to head back and figure this out before we can continue our talk. Okay, let's move fast. You rush right back since the incident occurred so suddenly, but Vin doesn't look as worried as he did a few nights ago. It looks like he already has a plan. When you and Vin reach the clinic, the police are already at the scene. Mr. and Mrs. Frost seems a little fearful of the police officers. They stand off to the side, glancing at one another sneakily as you and Vin approach. As for the police questions, Mr. and Mistress Frost only give simple answers or remain silent. They obviously came prepared, insisting that they only came to visit. Vin explains that outside factors cannot be allowed to provoke Era Frost during the initial treatment phase, including family members. After the police carefully look over the treatment agreement and signatures to ensure everything is in order, they persuade Mr. and Mistress Frost to head back home. They just don't know when to quit. I am afraid they will not stop here. And judging from their reaction just now, they have wisened up quite a bit. They did not expose anything that could get them caught. I think they consulted with someone or have someone secretly guiding them. Yes, that is certainly a possibility. But you don't need to concern yourself with that. That's my area of expertise, so just leave it to me. Okay, we can't let ourselves get too wound up. We need to relax a little. You get an idea as you spot the tea set on the table. Why don't you relax for a bit while I brew some tea? Vin's gaze moved from the teacup to you. He is seemingly intrigued by your suggestion. Then I will wait here to sample it. Soon after, you bring over some freshly brewed black tea. You set the wooden tray down on the small table in front of Vin, lining up 3 cups of tea side by side. I tried brewing it like you taught me before, but I made 2 extra cups. You can try all of them and see which one you like best. Vin's brows raise a little and his expression is somewhat curious. Alright, I will start from the left. He picks up the teacup and blows on it. When it cools down, he takes a sip. Vin pauses for a few seconds each time he tries one of the cups, carefully savoring the flavor before moving on. Vin finally raises his hand and looks at you after he tries all 3 cups. I am quite curious to know how you brewed these 3 cups. Huh? Is something wrong? Do they taste bad? Not at all. In fact, they each have their own unique traits. The cup on the left is rich but slightly bitter, while the cup in the middle is a little astringent. Comparatively, the last cup is the most perfect. It is not astringent whatsoever, has an aromatic flavor and a persisting aftertaste. Well, I pretty much brewed them like you taught me before. But I didn't follow the same process for the 3rd cup. Vin blinks a few times, seemingly surprised. When I was brewing the first 2 cups, I kept trying to remember what you taught me to do, but when I was actually doing it, I kept feeling like I was missing something. I was worried I wouldn't be able to exactly recreate the same flavor of your tea, even if I remembered every single step. There are always going to be little differences. So for the 3rd cup, I used your basic method but made some small adjustments based on my own understanding. Vin listens patiently as you speak, looking shocked once again. After thinking for a moment, he speaks with mixed emotions. I understand. To some degree, your adjustments were certainly successful. In reality, brewing tea can be a very difficult process to control. Several factors can affect the flavor. Even I cannot guarantee that the final product will taste exactly the same as the previous cup. Vin looks down thoughtfully at the teacup in front of him. It's as if he is looking right through it, considering something else. Imagine there was an experienced individual who used a novel method to brew tea quite some time ago. But he believes that method will not suit other people's taste, even if it is adjusted accordingly. What do you make of that situation? Vin is talking about tea on the surface, but his words seem to have a deeper meaning. I think the reason he might say that is because he's never tried it for himself or he's stuck in his ways. In fact, only someone who drinks tea has the deepest understanding of whether a brewing method might be suitable for someone or not. But if the person brewing the tea hides the method before serving it, then the person drinking it will never know what kind of flavor it is. Yes, you are exactly right. If it has never been tested with a true tea drinker, then the tea maker's opinion will certainly be biased to some extent. Vin thinks deeply for a moment. His original doubts have seemingly vanished, but his current expression is more solemn than before. Then what if, in the end, my decision turns out to be wrong? Like if I created a new plan for a patient, but it was very risky and possibly even uncontrollable, what would you say? Vin rarely doubts his decision this much, but it's clear that he is very calm and preparing himself for every possibility. I Actually, I can't imagine anything bad happening as a result. Why? Because I trust in your decisions. I trust that you'll never make any impulsive decisions when it comes to a treatment plan. You always carefully considering and gauge everything. So I trust your judgment no matter what. I have faith in your expertise and even more faith in you as a person. I see. Vince's furrowed brow gradually relaxed. He picks up one of the teacups in front of him, completely unconcerned that it is the slightly bitter brew. He then takes a few sips. Suddenly, his hand holding the cup freezes. What's wrong? I just remembered something important. Vin seems somewhat frustrated that he didn't think of it earlier, which makes you even more curious. Did you forget something? Does it have something to do with the details of the treatment plan? Exactly. Back then in Sword, I discussed which of Eccles' plans to choose with the patient. Wait, choose? Yes, the situation back then was quite similar to this current one. Echo prepared several plans, but only one was quick, efficient, and yet risky. Vin doesn't explain the past in detail. Instead, he begins speaking about the process of choosing a treatment plan. Miss Era Frost's circumstances are similar to my family members. Both are and were trapped in serious situations with no time to waste. The calm period after the breakdown can actually be even more dangerous. Back then, we both chose the fast and efficient, yet risky option. But I believe there was another key element to the plan's eventual success. It was something we talked about privately back then, but I did not tell Mr. Eckhart. The patient asked me to keep it a secret. What was it? To put it simply, that secret had to do with hope. Sensing your curiosity when smiles and gives you a promise. Because it is related to the treatment plan, I would like to wait until the treatment process is nearly complete before I tell you everything. That includes the incident from the past I mentioned before. Alright, then I'll be waiting for that day. This is both a promise and anticipation of positive results in the future. The next day, you and Vin head out to see Era Frost and Caldwell. Today is special as they must decide which treatment plan to proceed with. As Vin gets stressed, he looks more natural and composed than he did yesterday. This is the usual him. Looks like everything's ready. Yes, the preliminary plan has also been drafted. I am just unsure which plan Miss Frost and Mr. Cudwell will choose. If Miss Frost is doing well, she will definitely have her own opinions concerning treatment options. Her subconscious desire is to rescue herself is actually very strong. Vin thinks of something, smiling confidently. Well, we will have to talk about it with them to know what they are thinking. Come on, let's go. Treatment room. Vin has a hunch that some useful legal evidence might emerge while discussing treatment plans with Era Frost and Caldwell. So, after making sure that they are both okay with it, you follow Vin into the clinic as an alternate. Caldwell is organizing some boxes off to the side. When he spots you two coming in, he washes his hands and walks over. Era Frost is lying in the hospital bed. She seems a bit drained but looks much better than before. Hi, Dr. Richard, Miss Sherrera. You and Vin have already visited Era Frost multiple times. As long as no one mentions anything about her parents, her mood remains relatively stable. But she is doing everything in her power to suppress those thoughts. Once they are triggered and explode again, she'll be on the verge of another breakdown. Before Caldwell can sue, you have to ensure Era Frost's mental and physical well-being at the very least. That means she needs a new treatment plan. Miss Frost, I would like to discuss the new treatment plan options with you. I will outline everything for you and Mr. Caldwell, and you both can choose for yourself. Naturally, I will provide a simple assessment of each plan. With that, Vin begins to explain the plans in detail. Vin directly states that the first option is his perfect plan. It is comparatively fast and efficient, but also quite risky. The other options all have their various pros and cons, but recovery will be slower. I want to choose the fastest method. I want. Era Frost gets a little woke up, moving her arms to hug herself. But Era, moving slower would be better for you. No, I want. Era Frost shakes her head. The more she explains herself, the more worked up she gets. Era, don't worry. Caldwell rushes over in an attempt to calm Era Frost down, but Vin raises his hand to gesture for him to stop. Maybe we should listen to what Miss Frost really thinks. Caldwell is taken aback for a moment and then looks at Era Frost anxiously. However, he still decides to trust Vin's judgment. Alright, Miss Frost, what I am about to say might be very painful or uncomfortable for you. But I still believe you must hear it. It is that I cannot save you. Vin speaks every word with deliberate emphasis. His tone is steady, without any hesitation whatsoever. Vin's shocking statement has seemingly left Era Frost frightened, and she stares at the manor doctor in front of her in disbelief. Dr. Richter, what do you mean? I did not mean to scare you. I simply mean what I said. Psychiatrists are not gods. We cannot save everyone with the wave of a magic wand. You must become conscious of several things on your own. All I can do is to provide support. Ah, Era Frost is even more bewildered now. Seemingly unconsciously, she begins to look around for Cardwell. She opens her mouth as if she is about to call his name. Just then, Vince raises his index fingers to his lips to make a shushing gesture. Shh. Do not ask others for help. It will not work. If I cannot even save you, how will anyone else? As I said, you must figure it out on your own. Figure it out on my own? How am I supposed to? Dr. Richter, please don't joke about this. I cannot do anything. I am a failure. Nobody wants me. Vin interrupts Era Frost, looking at her somewhat sternly. Losing your family and your job, your parents taking advantage of you, that is reality. But that is not everything in your life, is it? Not everything in my life. Era Frost freezes for a second, then repeats Vin's word to herself in a low voice. Certain words seem to have struck a chord with her. Yes, you deserve a future that is more promising than your present, past, and all the horrible situations you talk about. A future. And this future will belong to you alone. Only you can grasp it. So, Era Frost, only you can save yourself. Can I really save myself? You are the only one who can. Will you choose to save yourself and walk toward the future? Or will you choose to let others save you and relive the same hellish agony? Miss Frost, I hope you can listen to your own heart and make your choice based on how you feel. Era Frost is no longer trying to protest or escape the situation. She begins to seriously consider which choice she should make. During this time, Vin remains silent, only looking encouragingly at Era Frost. Caldwell stands beside Vin anxiously, but he doesn't dare to interfere. He seemingly realized how important Vin's actions are for her. You stand there with your heart in your throat, practically holding your breath as you wait for Era Frost's response. After some time, Era Frost shifts her position but doesn't look to Caldwell for his opinion. Rather, she looks in front of her at Vin with some trepidation and anticipation in her gaze. If that's the case, Dr. Richter, can I ask, how should I save myself? Vince tensely straightened back, suddenly relaxed. A relieved smile reveals itself in his golden eyes hidden behind his glasses. He is happy for her. You have finally taken this step. The moment you voluntarily ask that question, you set foot on the road to save yourself. And now comes the part I need to do, to help you save yourself. Vin walks over to the nearby table and takes out a few pieces of paper and a pen. He then hands them to Era Frost. And today I will help you by giving you a suggestion. Miss Frost, give yourself hope. Hope? Starting now, write down 20 hopes you have for the future on that paper. It does not matter if they are realistic, the more specific, the better. My hopes for the future. You could also call it a plan, but this plan must include the most imperative hope, one that you most want to see realized. The hope I most want to see realized? Era Frost nods pensively. Vin pauses for a moment, perhaps aiming to give Era Frost some time to think. After some time, he speaks softly. If I ask you right now to tell me the hope you most want to see realized, could you tell me? Era Frost freezes for a moment, unsure how to answer. If you can tell me, I will accept your opinion and treat you with the method you prefer. I will help you get better as soon as possible. Really? Let me think. Era Frost seems excited and perplexed at the same time. She turns to glance at Cardwell without thinking but quickly looks away as if she suddenly remembered what Vin had told her. I have to figure this out on my own. Vin immediately takes note of this. It seems like he's very happy with Era Frost's behavior, so he gives her another push. Perhaps that hope may cause you to sacrifice the other 19 plans just to make it come true. Even so, it is also the hope you most want to grasp in your entire life. In your heart, what is it? Is it something specific? Or is it a feeling? Era Frost slowly closes her eyes. Her mind travels as she follows Vince's words, constantly searching and repeating them in her heart. After some time, Era Frost softly gasps. She opens her eyes, looking somewhat excited. I I want I want a future that truly belongs to me. I want to open my own store. I want to be in charge of myself without any restrictions. I want I want to take control of my own life. It's as if Vince lets out a deep sigh as she chuckles softly. You can hear the happiness and relief in his laugh. Miss Frost, I am very happy to hear that answer as your secretary. I hope you will remember that feeling, as well as this answer. Concerning whether it will solidify as a firm hope in your heart, and as for any other plans you may have for the future, you can take your time. I will wait for your final answer. Before you and Vin leave the consultation room, Cardwell leans up against the wall, nearly crying tears of joy. It looks like he also recognized how hard an Era Frost's change was. Please look after Miss Frost. Let me know right away if anything happens. Alright, thank you, Dr. Risher. You and Vin get your things together and head downstairs to wait for the car. You've been thinking about everything Vin just said about those 20 plans and about hope. It was probably the key element to improving the treatment plan's chances of success that Vin mentioned earlier. You asked about the idea you have in mind, and Vin nods in approval. The most important condition for the success of this treatment plan is hope. You have heard of Pandora's box, right? Yeah, I've heard that legend before. Pandora opened up the magic box to release greed, deceit, slander, envy, pain, and other evils while hope remains inside. There is a similar psychological principle. However, it is quite complex, so I will not get into it now. To put it simply, my improved plan hinges on allowing the patient, someone teetering on the edge of desperation, to find a connection with the world. This gives the patient the strongest and the most fundamental hope for themselves and their future. I see. The basis behind this type of psychological reconstruction is similar to building a steel framework on rough, broken ground. Now, we need to dig out all the old, rotten, and unnecessary things. We will completely clean it up before rebuilding everything anew. Vin looks out the window. Golden sunshine blankets everything. When the sky is cloudy, people hope for a sunny day, naturally making them feel better. I finally understand why you said hope is the most important element. Then, did the patient from before use a similar method to save himself by giving himself hope? But now isn't a good time to bring this up. You plan on waiting until Vin isn't so busy before asking him that. The gentle breeze caresses your face as the sunny clear weather makes you feel much better. Last night, after you and Vin received Era Frost's answer, you decided to head out a little earlier today. Only minutes ago, Vin finished getting his things together and is now heading to the consultation room. You've been sorting out all the information and evidence that Era Frost provided you with. It's enough for a lawsuit, but we still need some leverage to increase our chances of success. After all, Mr. and Mrs. Frost are both sneaky and difficult to convince, so you can't collect sufficient evidence. Their attorney might come back to use it against you. But if Era Frost can recover somewhat through treatment or achieve the capacity for typical behavior at the very least, everything will be much easier to handle. But if the treatment doesn't go as planned, if the treatment plan is ineffective or goes wrong, your only option is to ask Vin to testify on behalf of Era Frost as her psychiatrist. But if that's the case, everything will be delayed a few more days as additional formalities are handled, extending the entire litigation process. Even so, you are prepared for the worst. Meanwhile, there is a constant voice in your head telling you there is nothing wrong with Vin's treatment plan. He can't do this. The new treatment plan's preliminary phase lasts 3 days. During this time, other than Vin, only his assistant and Codwell can have contact with Era Frost. And you head over to the clinic after work every day and wait for Vin so you can head home together. Today is the third day. You sit in front of the door to the consultation room feeling vaguely uneasy. I wonder what the preliminary results will be. Just as you begin to worry yourself, Vin walks out of the consultation room. He strides over to Codwell, who has been waiting for quite a while. You can go in, but remain quiet for now and do not disturb her. Starting tomorrow, you can chat with her more and help her remember happy memories from the past. Alright, thank you for all your hard work, Dr. Richter. After he is done speaking with Codwell, Vin walks over to you. He has a gentle smile on his face and is seemingly in a good mood. Here, this is for you. Vin pulls a voice recorder out of his pocket and hands it to you. What is this? Era Frost voluntarily shared many details of the abuse she experienced. Rest assured that this was done with her consent before treatment. It can be used as evidence in a lawsuit. That's amazing! So how is Miss Frost doing? Things are looking good. Her mood is much more stable. As of now, we can call it a great starting point. I will move forward with this new treatment plan. After saying this, Vin inadvertently looks at the time and then shifts his gaze to the nearby consultation room. I almost forgot to tell you something. When Miss Ross finished treatment today, she asked me a question. When I heard it, I suggested that she ask you herself. Huh? What was it? As soon as the words leave your mouth, you hear footsteps approaching from the consultation room. You then spot Codwell and Era Frost. The way Era Frost carries herself as she walks over seems different from before, leaving you somewhat surprised. Even though her eyes still appear slightly sad, there is a hint of determination in her gaze. Hi, Miss Shiraira. She nods at you and speaks fluidly, unlike her staggered speech from before. Hi, Miss Frost. I'm happy to see you are doing well. Thank you. I'm pretty satisfied myself. She smiles happily, then looks at you with a more serious expression. Miss Shirara, I want to know how I can go about suing my parents. And how far along do I need to be in recovery before I can testify in court? You You're left awestruck, but Era Frost continues to explain herself. I heard that Aldo was getting evidence ready for a lawsuit, so I wanted to know if there's anything I can do. I want to do something to make my parents understand their mistakes. Otherwise, I might not be able to handle seeing them anymore. You can't imagine what it must have taken for Era Frost to say these words. It seemed like her mental health and emotions have undergone massive changes over the past few days of treatment. You sit Era Frost down, explaining her options if she does decide to sue her parents. You believe that tonight is an incredibly important turning point for Era Frost. He voluntarily begins to look for change, casting off the shackles around her heart. From now on, she alone will control her own life and future. Vince's bedroom. Era Frost's condition has improved, which bodes extremely well for the following treatment process. Her life has been lifted out of the depths of despair and is on the right path toward a happy future. It's a great start. You and Vin walk back to your old house, bathed in moonlight. After hanging your coats up on the coat rack at the door, you head to the bedroom to sit down and relax. Vin rubs his brow and nods. Even though he looks a bit tired, there is a soft, relieved smile in his eyes. You pour out a cup of warm black tea and hand it to him. Here, drink some tea and enjoy a nice rest. Vin takes the cup and sips the tea, letting out a long sigh.
그리고 내일 스월터에 있는 아이클 교수님께 전화를 드리려고요.
Huh?
제가 해냈다고 알려드리고 싶어서요. 하스프랑 가문만을 위해 쓰였던 그 치료법이 평범한 사람한테도 맞을지는 장담할 수 없다고 하셨거든요. 하지만 전 그 방법이 마냥 절대적이지 않다는 걸 증명해냈어요. 환자의 증상에 맞게 적절히 조정하면 전반적인 치료 프로그램이라든가 과정을 완벽하게 이끌어낼 수 있어요.
Good thing you stuck to your guns.
당신이 늘 응원해준 덕분이죠.
Era Frost's situation is being properly dealt with. However, something else is still bothering you. What kind of mental change did Vince's relative undergo when his family experienced a similar situation? I still don't get it. How could they be so cruel to their own flesh and blood? Vin reaches out to gently stroke your back and you lean in. The crisp sand on his body gives you an indescribable sense of safety.
어린 시절 비슷한 일을 겪었을 때 저도 당신처럼 이해할 수 없었고 이해하고 싶지도 않았어요. 나중에야 누군가에게는 가족이 중요하지 않을 수도 있다는 걸 깨달았죠.
Vin tightly holds onto the teacup you brought him, his knuckles turning slightly white as they wrap around the porcelain.
가족이라는 건 세속적인 이익이 얽혀선 안 되는 자연적인 관계예요. 이게 상품이나 도구로 이용된다면 피해자 입장에서는 회복할 수 없는 상처를 입게 되죠. 직계 가족 간에 그런 일이 일어난다면 더욱 치명적일 테고요. 창조자가 피창조자의 존재 의미와 가치를 부정하는 것과 같기 때문이에요.
Vin's voice exudes a certain errant tone, just like tonight's praise. It moves through time and space, peering through the distant years of isolation and continuously reverberating. Yes, no child will ever want to be born as a tool. That would only serve to make them psychologically lost and desperate. Was I only born to be your tool? Vin smiled shyly.
그 말을 들으니까 문득 예전에 본 신화가 떠오르네요.
What legend?
간단히 말하자면 전쟁에서 승리하기 위해 아들을 도구로 삼은 신이 점점 타락한다는 이야기예요. 중간 내용은 잘 기억나지 않지만 결말이 인상 깊었어요. 신에 의해 힘이 봉인된 아들이 마침내 힘을 되찾고 신에게 복수를 하거든요.
So that's how it ended. Vin doesn't look at you or respond as you sigh. He is staring off in front of himself, lost in thought. You don't know what he's thinking, but you have a feeling it isn't anything that could make him happy. However, Vin's expression quickly returns to normal after a few seconds, just as you have something to say to him. Even though you've already made up your mind to say it, when you suddenly think about the opera Forbidden Witches of the Heart, you can't help but feel a little uneasy. Vin nods, his gaze full of an encouraging warmth.
걱정 말고 말해봐요.
Actually, I really want to know about the similar situation you encountered because you've been acting strange this entire time. And there's something important I wish to say. I'm worried about you.
제가 걱정된다고요?
Yeah, I'm worried about the you from before. How did Vin get through seeing such a similar tragic experience when he was younger? You're scared to even think about it. You take a deep breath, worried that you might have said too much. But at this very moment, Vin suddenly wrapped you in his embrace. Vin's arms sloped slightly to support the weight of your body. As soon as you look up, you are met with his smiling eyes. Vin holds your waist with gentle strength, making you feel steady without a constraining sensation. The suggestive atmosphere brought on by the close proximity causes your cheeks to heat up. It seems like Vin is enjoying your reaction, and he speaks with a smile.
제가 겪은 비슷한 경험에 대해 정말로 알고 싶은가요?
Of course! Vin's eyes narrows with satisfaction. His irises a deep cool.
그럼 들려줄게요. 어렸을 때 친하게 지내던 친척이 비슷한 일을 겪어서 심리적으로 심각한 문제가 생겼어요. 그래서 친척을 데리고 아이클 교수님을 찾아갔고요. 교수님은 치료법을 고민하시다가 빠르고 직접적인 방법이 아니면 친척이 정신적으로 무너질 거라고 보셨어요. 하지만 정말 위험한 방법이었죠.
Even though Vin does his best to act calm when he says this, you can still sense a heavy sadness in his complex expression. So, what did his family think?
하스프랑 가문 사람들의 의견이 맞지 않아서 오랫동안 논쟁을 벌였어요.
Vin chuckles coldly when he says this. From his point of view, maybe those arguments were full of hypocrisy and pretentiousness.
하지만 전 누가 뭐라든 신경 쓰지 않았어요. 가족들이 친척을 도구로만 여기는 게 보였거든요. 그리고 친척을 치료해주고 싶은 마음에 따로 아이클 교수님을 찾아갔는데 갑자기 그 일로 제 마음에도 변화가 있진 않았는지 물으시더라고요.
Vin, you...
있기야 했겠지만 심각하진 않았을 거예요.
Vin quickly changes the topic.
아무튼 저나 친척이나 마음의 준비를 단단히 했으니 크게 위험하지 않을 거라고 치료만 할 수 있으면 된다고 말했죠. 물론 그 친척이 멀쩡할 때 저한테 했던 말이에요.
Maybe because he doesn't want to mention the person's name, or maybe because they are no longer in contact, Vin vaguely refers to his family members simply as his relative. You feel a little nervous for some reason, and you can't stop yourself from grabbing onto the hem of Vin's shirt. It's as if you can see him facing this danger alone through his words, a young boy both desperate and determined. Wait, how did you mentally prepare yourselves? Vin is taken aback for a moment, then lets out a laugh.
교수님이랑 똑같은 질문을 하네요. 그분도 저한테 어떤 마음의 준비를 했냐고 물으셨어요. 그래서 그동안 많은 의사들을 만나면서 심리암시법을 알게 됐다고 했죠. 대신 친척이 한 마음의 준비가 뭔지만 얘기했지 제 얘기는 하지 않았어요. 그건 제 비밀이니까요.
Huh?
사실 다른 사람에게 이 이야기를 꺼낸 건 이번이 처음이에요. 그 비밀을 나누고 싶어진 것도 처음이고요.
Vin's smile is somewhat cunning, like a cat sneakily hiding something precious.
그때 당시 심리적으로 크게 힘들지 않았던 이유가 이 마음의 준비 덕분일지도 몰라요. 스스로에게 강력한 심리 암시를 부여했거든요. 멀고 또 오랜 시간을 거쳐야 하는 기적적인 희망을요.
Hope? Vin looks at you deeply.
걱정할 필요 없다고. 눈앞의 상황도 가문 사람으로서 겪는 일들도 잠시뿐이라고 되뇌었어요. 앞으로 꼭 순수한 감정을 느끼게 해주고 사리사욕 없이 함께할 수 있는 사람을 만나야지 하면서 그 사람과 소소한 일들을 나누며 어려움을 함께 헤쳐나가겠다고요. 또 같이 아름다움과 추악함을 경험하고 흔들리지 않는 이상을 지켜내겠다고 다짐했죠. 우리는 만난 순간부터 그랬지만 앞으로도 영원히 헤어지지 않을 거예요.
These firm words are branded on his heart like an oath, once transforming into a beacon for psychological reconstruction in his past. They now send shockwaves deep into your soul. Vin's gaze locks onto yours, and you find it impossible to look away.
그리고 지금 진정한 희망이 생겼어요. 바로 당신이에요. 저 운 좋은 거 맞죠?
An undying flame seems to be burning in Vin's golden eyes. It is a blaze amidst a once dark world, now illuminating your path. Your head floods with thoughts. You reach out and embrace Vin, your breath mixing ambiguously and lingering between you both. The rich moonlight pours down as your thoughts dance. At this moment, the delicate starlight is the best answer.